Hi everyone, today we're going to create a procedural melting material in Blender, step by step. We will build everything with nodes, so you don't need any image texture. Don't worry, if you're a beginner, I'll explain every node and every connection. First, let's create a new material for our object. In the Material tab, click New and give it a name, for example, Melting Material. Blender adds a principled BSDF shader connected to material output, and we will build our whole setup around this. Next, I add texture coordinate node and use the generated output. This gives us stable 3D coordinates that stick to the object even if we move or scale it. And then I plug generated to mapping node, and mapping node controls the overall scale and stretching of the pattern. So I keep location and rotation as 0 and tweak the scale values so the texture is a bit stretched in Z and denser in X and Y. From this mapping node, I'll send the vector output to all 3 noise texture nodes in the graph. That way, all parts of the material use the same coordinate system and line up nicely. The first noise texture at the top is responsible for the base color variation. I set it to 3D with the medium scale. This gives soft, organic swirls instead of regular noise. And then the factor output of this noise goes into a multiply node. Here I multiply the noise with the light gray value. This lets me control how strong the pattern is before it goes further. Then the result goes into a gamma node. Gamma brightens or darkens midtones. I use it to push the pattern so the bright and dark areas are more pronounced. And after that, I send it into a brightness contrast node, and here I fine-tune how strong the color difference is. A bit more contrast, for example, makes the melting surface more readable. And finally, the output of brightness contrast goes into the base color of principal BSDF. So this whole chain knows multiply, gamma, brightness is just shaping the color pattern of the material. Next, I create thinner surface detail for the melting effect, and I add a second noise texture and again plug the mapping node to noise vector. This time the scale is higher and the noise is rawer, so we get small detailed shapes. And the factor output of this noise goes into a color ramp. With the color ramp, I crush the blacks to make the pattern more like a sharp mask instead of soft gray values, and this gives stronger ridges and pits. And then I plug the color ramp to high of bump node. The bump node converts this black-white mask into a fake surface relief. And finally, the normal output of the bump node goes into the normal input of the principal BSDF. This chain adds all the teeny bumps and grooves on top of the bigger melting shapes without actually changing the mesh. And now we create the large wavy melted form. I add the third noise texture. Again, drives by the same mapping vector, This one has a lower scale and more distortion to give big flowing waves. And the factor output of this noise goes into a magic texture node as its vector input. The magic texture adds those characteristic swirly, almost liquid-like patterns. Then I take the factor output of the magic texture and plug it into the high input of the displacement node. On the displacement node, I keep space set to object and use a low scale value, so the effect isn't too extreme, and keep mid-level around the default, so surface expands in both directions. Finally, the displacement output goes into the displacement input of the material output. This is what actually pushed the geometry and creates the thick, melted, dripping fill. Then I set up the principal BSDF, roughnesses and else, and those values help the lighting pick up all the bumps and displacement, making the melting effect more visible. And that's it. Our procedural melting material is ready. We built everything from scratch with just a few noise nodes, magic texture, bump, and displacement. And I hope this was easy to follow and that you learned something new today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, feel free to experiment with the settings and to create your own versions of melting plastic, wax, or even candy, for example. So thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.